Let's get this thing going. Wait for people to start jumping in, and then when I see Craig, I will. Good to see everyone. I'm excited for this, that's for sure. If you guys haven't seen Craig's stuff's awesome. So I'm pumped to see him jump on. And I did get people's questions from the post, so I do have extra questions, and I have the topics that I posted. So we'll see if I can see Craig jump in. Fire it up. I think I invited him. Hopefully I did. Cool. Okay, let's see if that works. If anyone has any questions right now, let me know. While we wait, we're going to be talking about speed for like max speed, long drive stuff, just for fun, max speed, and then sort of like his take on where speed sort of. Craig Parker is unable to join. Interesting. Things are good today. Busy. Kids always busy. Let's try that one more time, Craig. All right, try the invite one more time. We'll see. What's my official handicap? It's still officially a plus 2.1. It shouldn't be. I haven't entered a legitimate score in quite a while, but that's what it is. And Craig, if you're here, I don't know if you're in here yet. Hopefully I have the time right. John? Let's see. I've got my iPad here with notes too. What speed training program recommend? I mean, I recommend the Next Gear stuff. Obviously, it's what we do. So I don't follow Stack or Super Speed. We just do our own stuff. So not sure that's helpful or not, but John, can't see. All right. I'm not sure if he's having a hard time joining. Craig, if you're in here, let me know. I'll keep trying to invite you, but hopefully this works. If not, you can just start firing questions to me. I can tell you about what I'm doing, but hopefully I didn't get the time zones wrong. Craig's in Australia, I'm in California, and I'm using my phone, so I can't look up the time zones over there in Brisbane. But there is a chance that maybe I did this wrong and have the times wrong, which I hope is not the case. It's not looking good. All right, we'll see if that works. Patrick? It's about 14 hours, dude. Huh, I keep getting a message saying he's unable to join. Oh, 7:04. He said, did he say 8? Oh, shit. I may be an hour off. Need to fix that. That'd be a bummer if I'm an hour off and it was supposed to be at 3 and not 2. Um, but yeah, definitely have lost a lot of weight. Maybe Ryan wants to jump on if I am an hour early. Oh yeah, Yoka. Well, Yokadehi is that how you say it? Um, is a blast. I love that place. Patrick, who just commented, we played there as well. It was less of a good round. That's all right. Ryan, I think I was an hour off with Craig. If you want to jump on and teach people how to practice, we can skip the speed stuff. Who do I want to win the Masters? I would I would love to see Victor win. I would love Hovland to win the Masters. Um, I've heard nothing but good things about Victor as like from a personal standpoint, and I love his game. So I would love to see Victor win. Okay, so I have a feeling we thought we were 13 hours. I think we got our time zones mixed up. I'm willing to bet I'm an hour early for Craig. So we may have to reschedule this. Taiwan. Got to get out to Taiwan. Well, shoot. This is kind of a bummer. Have you tried getting on tour? No, God, no. I've never tried getting on tour. I haven't even tried playing a professional event ever. Um, the most I've ever done is tried USAM qualifying. And I did that what twice, 3 times maybe. Or I did 2 USAMs and 2 US Mid-Ams, I think. Yeah, definitely soon, Ryan. No, I don't play no tours. Like I again, like for people that don't know, I have not been to a chipping green or a putting green. I haven't been to a chipping green and sat and chipped for more than about 5 minutes, like before a round, in like a decade. So like I haven't tried to play tournaments in a very long time. Hmm. Oh, well, all right. So maybe we'll have to figure out. We might have to reschedule this, unless you guys have more questions. I mean, I'll stay here for a little bit, but I think it's very obvious at this point that we were an hour off. Not. I'll let you guys go, and we'll chalk this up as a miss. All right. No questions. Let's maybe see if we can connect later. If not, maybe we'll reschedule. So I apologize. It definitely seems like it. Oh, wait. Give me a sec. There's no. Okay. That's, okay. So that's my bad. Is now tomorrow. Oh yeah, the long drive. Long drive was fun. I um. Wait. So Craig might be popping in. So we might do a little Q&A here. Give me a sec. Or come back. So we're either gonna hang in what 50 minutes. So either hang out here for a couple minutes or come back in 50. Yeah, long drives seem to be fairly easy. Not easy like to win. The guys who win kick my ass. But why didn't I continue? Just time and money. It was just too expensive to keep doing for sort of for fun. Like I said, like I'm not going to win an event against Josh Koch, Justin James, Martin Borgmeyer, Kyle Berkshire, Seb. Like there's just so many guys, Zach Holton, Colton, that are so much faster than me that it just like to pay whatever it was, $500, $750 to enter an event, pay the flights, the hotels, the cars. Like it just didn't make any sense when I'm just really out there having fun. How do I compare the old Stealth to the new QI? Oh, that's a tough one. Um, do I have? No. The shape's a little different. I prefer the look from address of the QI. The what do you call it? The the top line and the face color I prefer on the QI. It seems like it's got a little bit. The LS seems to be a little bit lower spin and a little bit less forgiving than the old Stealth. And then the Max Head for me, the way I've got it set up is the best I've seen. So Craig's going to jump on. So for everyone here, Craig's coming in a minute or two. The Max Head, the way I have it set up with a lighter back weight, tons of hot melt up in the toe, the lowest lofted head they can find. So I think it's like in the low eights, and then crank to lower works as a great driver. So I think that's going to stay, but the core head might even be better. My workout split is upper body. Well, currently upper body on Monday, lower body on Tuesday, whole body on Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, probably Sunday. I do some form of cardiac output and mobility / general strength work. So I'm basically doing something all the time. It's just whether it's actually hard or not. What's the easiest speed training for a slow 2 handicapper? Oh, I mean, the easiest would just be going to hit some balls with like speed out on the range, like work on the swing and then actually just go hit balls. All right, give us a sec, fellas. He's coming. Let's see what we get. But yeah, the Max. So I just put a new grip on this thing too. So the Max Head, like my back weight is probably like half the weight. There's Craig. All right, here we go. Give it a sec. Oh, did it not accept? I never know what the delay. Here we go. Hey, Craig.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Good. I apologize. I thought I had all set right, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, I bet I've got the time zones wrong.
There's probably like two lots of daylight savings going on, and it's all good.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
God. Okay. So, just
what did I miss?
What's that?
What did I miss?
Yeah, I know.
What have we done?
A bunch of random questions. Why I don't play tournament golf, and me trying to say politely that I'm not good enough. But
gotcha.
But then lots of speed questions already.
Yeah.
About, like, what's the best speed training to follow? What's the easiest way for a slow 2 handicapper to get faster? So we'll talk about that. If you don't mind introducing yourself and just like giving everybody a background of who you are, that'd be a good start. Yeah.
Okay, so on Instagram, obviously it's Craig Parker Golf, and I work at Indooroopilly Golf Club, which is in Brisbane. That's in the state of Queensland in Australia. Might annoy some other golf clubs, but it's the biggest and the best golf club in Brisbane. And I've been there for around about 12 years now. I was at a club before that for 6 or 7 years, which is a little north of here. When I came down here, I actually sort of was kind of like half strength and conditioning coach, half golf coach, and not many hours left in the day once you're doing that. I got into weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, became an Olympic weightlifting coach. Had a couple of athletes I was mucking around with that, which was great fun. And I guess you get to a point at some stage where it's kind of like, all right, time to pick, right?
Yeah.
Like there really just wasn't enough hours in the day. And I had a lot of encouragement. I was, had a lot of close friends and mentors, and they were really encouraging about what I did when I was teaching golf and quite inspiring to me. And that sort of helped me make that decision. And then kind of after that, I was like, kind of always kind of dabble or hybrid or kind of bring these two worlds together a little bit. I just really love the strength world. And obviously when you're doing, things like short game, things like putting, that sort of thing, it doesn't seem so applicable.
Right.
It's hard to find kind of relevance, I suppose, there's not a lot of strength needed for hitting some chip shots and that kind of thing. And then as it kind of kept going, it became more and more apparent how important the long game was. And the ways to improve that were, actually some solutions were in the strength world, right? And I was like, I think I kind of got some stuff here that can really benefit people, and it is almost more streamlined, and actually the results come faster from some of the concepts that come from the strength and conditioning world than the, you might say, highly technical kind of golf concepts that were out there. Some of which were, really vague to even myself. I'm like, wow, what does this really mean? This kind of thing. So that was kind of the journey. And then I guess a few years later, once people found out some of my just regular clients, just handicap golfers, they were starting to hit the ball a lot further. They're like, hey, can you make me hit further? I like to try and hit 400 yards. And I'm like, sorry, what? How far? And I'm like, I'd love to try. And so I was really, really blessed. The first two guys, well, kind of the first three guys actually that sort of came to me. They started to working together, and they wanted to form kind of like a training group, and they're all really good athletes. They had kind of like backgrounds in other sports, baseball, and these sort of things, some hockey kind of stuff, and so we really borrowed from that world. We borrowed from the strength and conditioning world, and we tried to sort of talk golf. And training those guys and training with those guys was kind of really the formative learning into the long drive
Right.
world for me. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, do you have a background with the ASCA?
The Australian Weightlifting
Oh,
Federation, AWF.
yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I was going to ask if you knew Dan Baker out there.
No, I don't know Dan. I'll look him up.
Yeah. So Dan, I went to Edith Cowan, so the Australian over in Perth, and Dan and Greg Hath and Rob Newton all ran Edith Cowan's master's program in strength and conditioning.
Awesome.
And Dan is like the ASCA's chairman or something like
Wow.
that. So I didn't know if you guys ran past. But what you said was funny. I don't know how I originally saw your stuff. If it was just randomly or if somebody had shared it.
Yeah.
But like I immediately connected because everything you were doing was like you just said. It was more like patterns and movement and less like, hey, get the club here. So like my bias and my preference like immediately was drawn to it.
Yeah.
Because it was how I like to look at things.
Awesome.
So
Yep.
that's sort of how I found you.
Yeah. Cool.
That was like what? That was like 3 years ago or something, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed it ever since.
Time flies. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So to get in, I got my notes because I know I need them. One of the first things I wanted to ask you about,
Yeah.
since you do a lot of speed work, what's your take on like, or how do you utilize or not speed sticks versus just drivers? Like, where do you see the two worlds meshing or colliding?
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah. So I think they're a little bit sort of specialized.
Yeah.
I think, yes, anyone can just kind of grab one and swing it and potentially raise their speed a little bit. But the transference from the speed stick to the golf club when you're making impact to a ball, it's kind of like the Grand Canyon. It's not really like this big.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like how you utilize the speed sticks that's important. Some people can actually get slower from the use of speed sticks, and some people can get an enormous gain early, which seems to always kind of evaporate. They sort of find it, lose it, find it, lose it. So it needs to be part of a program, if that makes sense. It can't be kind of like the go-to.
Yeah.
It's not quite another sport or anything. But if you take that collision away with the golf ball, it's very different feedback for the brain. It's night and day almost. And so they are very important to like an overall program. They're very useful in the situation where you might have an athlete who's actually kind of plateauing, they're kind of stuck, and you can really burst through that with the use of club, without using the club. And then the other thing that's kind of really beneficial is, I guess, like you can't necessarily get to the range and you can't
Yeah.
hit balls. You may not have a net. Nets are awesome, by the way.
Yep.
I'm really lucky to have a net return. Those guys are amazing. But if you don't have that and you want to swing aggressively, and you want to actually, kind of overspeed, so you want to go a little faster than your regular golf swing, then they are very, very beneficial. It's kind of like, to me, it's like get the gains from them, and then the challenge begins. You've got to keep those gains.
Right. And like you said, transfer them. You got to
Yeah.
go from one to the other. Now, do you see any?
Speed.
Do you see any like I don't know, divergence between like, let's say your fastest long drivers and like your golfers, new golfers, good golfers, and like the success rates of speed work, like or speed
Yeah,
stick in particular, speed sticks, not the
it
club.
sticks.
Yeah, so like anything that's not a golf club.
Yeah. It's kind of, I mean, if you measure the amounts are different, right? The amounts are
Sure,
huge difference.
sure.
But I guess you could plot it and you could kind of scale it and you could look at it and they're probably very similar. And then I guess like we've kind of pushed some speeds that no one else has done.
Right.
And they're just wild, you know. And at that point in time, you're kind of doing it for the first
Yep.
time. You're kind of seeing these numbers.
Yeah.
First of all, you go like, is the radar correct? The second, the second thing you do is you want to see it again. So you go, okay, the radar's working. And then for regular golfers, sometimes they make these enormous jumps. It's it's really shocking. I used to have this kind of like baseline that I used to work with, and I used to brief people, and they'd come in for a lesson, and I'd say, hey, look, we've got a 10-mile-an-hour window to work with here on any given day, no matter how you feel. From where we start this session to where we end this session, we've got a potential 10-mile-an-hour window here, so that they had maybe a carrot, you know, something to chase, an idea of what they're attempting to do in this session. And obviously, as you get quicker, perhaps that window's kind of shrinking. So, as an example, if you think about someone who hasn't deadlifted before, they can get a massive improvement in their first session.
Right.
And then someone who's deadlifted for 20 years, like if they get a kilo, it's, you know, it's
Right.
like everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a very similar effect when it comes to speed as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Do you one okay, so I have my own personal feelings, so I won't share them yet. But what about this speed stick? Call it like a similarity to the driver. Like there's some speed sticks that are almost replicas, driver length, grip type, and then there's some that are short, some that like don't even look or feel like a golf club, but they've got like interesting weights attached to rubber bands. Some things that are like fans. So like do you find anything where like the faster someone gets, the more or less things need to look like a driver, feel like a driver, or feel like they're competition driver? Or do you not find that?
Uh, it's almost a yes, no.
Yeah,
Like, there's a point where you're doing too
yeah, yeah.
much. Okay. There's a point where, hey, just get your driver out. Okay.
Let's go.
And that happens to a lot of people. They tend to try too many things. They don't stick to anything for a long enough period to get the benefits. They're probably just about to get them and then they move on.
Yeah,
And it's like, no, you should have just stayed there for like another week or two. And so the further from a golf club they go, the closer to they are being better off working out with some dumbbells and
right.
some kettlebells and get stronger physically.
Yep.
And then the closer they get to a golf club, if they're almost too close to a golf club, swing a golf
Yep.
club. So you want to remove the club head, in my opinion. You want to remove a club head, and then from there you want to be able to swing this thing without any impact. And you want a similar weight to your golf club, not too far away in either direction, whether you go lighter or you go heavier. And you want the ability to go faster than you normally go. Okay. If you're weighting yourself consistently or using the drag effect, the fan or the parachute, it's going to actually teach you to go slower.
Right.
And if you want to, you know, kind of think, well, it's going to make me stronger, that's great, but you could probably do that in the gym, right? And you know, I was kind of educated about running a little while ago, like a long time ago, about a decade ago. And basically, what they were finding is like they were trying to make 100-meter sprinters go faster, right? Which is a huge challenge. And they used to do a lot of weighted work, like you know,
Right.
put a sled behind and all that kind of stuff. And eventually, someone decided, like, let's study this properly. So they weighted people up. They had a parachute behind them, and then they got some people to run on a slight incline decline, sorry.
Yep.
And the
Yeah.
decline group were much faster than the weighted group.
Right.
So to build strength, let's kind of go to the gym. In the gym, you don't necessarily need to be doing golf swing movements under load. Um, that's a kind of niche, kind of almost like a one percenter as well. And then being able to teach your brain to go faster than it currently goes is priority, like it's number one.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the most important thing. So if I'm 100 miles an hour, if I could just experience 110, like that's so valuable,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. 100%. Yeah,
Mm.
I like the description between like if you're gonna do strength work, do proper strength work, and if you're gonna
Yeah,
do speed work, do real speed work.
yeah,
Don't sit in this gray area.
yeah.
So
You
like,
really don't move through. Yeah,
do you mess around then? Like, do you have a preference, let's say, for the weight? It's easy to use super speed because there's like defined weights.
totally.
Uh,
Yeah.
but do you tend to stay lighter than a golf club, or is it kind of anything that moves faster than my club is kind of where you stay?
So we'll sometimes prep with a little extra weight. For example, that red color super
Yep.
speed. So and what we'll try and do sometimes is we'll benchmark with the red one as well, and that gives me some information and some feedback as a coach. It's not necessarily to have a crazy PB for the athlete,
Right.
and it's kind of like some testing. So basically, I'm like, are you kind of struggling with a bit of extra load? And that tells me something when I'm doing an assessment of that
Right.
player. And then when I give them, let's for example, the green one, which is lighter, they're not really moving it any quicker.
Right.
That tells me something as well.
Sure.
So it's not necessarily for the training itself. What I tend to do is assess players with it, and then that helps me understand what I need to have them do to get better. And it may be, wow, this guy's coordination is brilliant. I love this golf swing. This is so good. We need to get in the gym.
Right.
And vice versa. Wow, this guy's so strong. I can't believe how strong he is. Or girl, absolutely. And but the coordination and the timing, the sequencing, etc., that kind of stuff. When we think about it, it's like we need to focus on that. We need to build that up, and their strength can then be expressed in speed.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I like that. So if I'm hearing you correctly, like let's say we do our assessment,
Hmm.
let's say the red stick moves well and the green stick is about the same.
Yeah, yeah,
This is a time when you would say, okay, maybe we need more and more high speed work, coordination,
definitely. Yeah,
better swing mechanics, whatever it may be. But
totally.
it's that side, whereas if the red moves terribly and the green
Mm,
actually moves good, you're like, hey, maybe you need some more horsepower in the gym.
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
cool,
absolutely perfect. Yeah,
cool.
it might sound a little mean, but I try and break people,
Right, yeah,
and I see how they
right,
break. If does that make sense? Yeah,
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 100%, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'll leave that for if anyone has any questions to put them in because I'm going to try and go to the next topic and I'm trying to bookmark these so I can put them in the description.
Sounds
Um,
good.
if we're talking long drive versus golf,
Yeah,
both people get faster.
yeah.
Do you approach the effort and speed gain? Like, do you approach those things the same, or are you looking at them and saying, like, look, a golfer wants to get faster, but they're not trying to be a long driver. So we're going to hedge our bets, or like the pattern is different, or the training is different. Do you see like a divergence? I'm asking, I guess, between the two sports.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of crossover. There's a big amount of crossover for sure. But then when it comes down to the specifics of the training, there's definitely divergence, as you mentioned. So the the kind of one of the simple ways to explain it is kind of like imagine you have an internal clock, and when you take the club back, where impact is on that clock, and when you go from so we say standard swing to a long drive swing, that backstroke's enormously different in terms of those milliseconds that it takes to perform that. So if this athlete has a lot of time without playing, no tournaments, like an off season, then we can go really kind of fully into long drive concepts without concern about any upcoming tournaments, et cetera, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera. And we can really change those sequencings and timings. And then we can tighten them back up when they decide they're going to go back onto the golf course. And that's a luxury for me as a coach if that happens.
Right.
I'm kind of like, yes, how good.
Oh yeah.
But it tends to not be the case for the club golfer, shall we say. And so what we have to do is we have to find if we can get any speed, firstly, without any increase in hand path length. Okay. So we kind of got to look at the bottom of the tree, grab what we can, and sometimes we'll get a lot. Sometimes there may be a huge inefficiency, if I could use that word, in their swing, and then sometimes you go, no, this needs lengthening. We're going to have to lengthen this, and so you go through the process of lengthening the backstroke, but still trying to kind of match the downstroke for this person, right? So that they can still hit the ball pretty solid.
Yep.
So that tends to absolutely slow progress, but
Right.
still you progress, and it's kind of more, kind of inching forward, if that makes sense.
Yep.
If you can kind of tear it apart and go nuts, then you can make enormous gains. Like I've seen some of the craziest things ever. But you've got to have that dedicated time, and you want to focus that time on that, not multitask, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the divergence is there for sure.
That's funny. The way you describe it is different than the way I describe it, but the concept is the same. So like when I went from meeting Dana and going from, let's say, like 122 or 5, whatever it was, to
Yeah.
like touching 140, like
Mhm.
that game made my golf better. I hit the ball better.
Yeah.
But then like the change from 140 to 45 to touching 150, it was like the golf game just slowly got worse.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I always described it as everything became more extreme. So you discussed the hand path. I would say, yep, hand path got more extreme, wrist angles got more extreme,
Yeah.
like joint positions got more extreme. I was looking for more
Totally.
stretch,
More
but that
stretch. Yeah.
the idea of length is 100% true, because what I was trying to do on the golf course was take that new pattern and then hit a delicate 70-yard wedge shot, and it was like,
Yeah.
you can't take all of this and then just kind of say I'm going to hit it easy and that's going to be controllable.
Yeah.
The
100%.
yeah, the
Yeah.
pattern, the timing is all different. So that I couldn't agree with that anymore.
Yeah. Definitely. That's a good way of describing that wedge versus driver.
Yeah, right. And taking a long drive pattern to a wedge is not pretty, as I proved.
You hit the green sometimes. Sometimes
Yeah,
you hit the green. Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
lots of spin.
Yeah.
Uh, your mind to coach technical things for long drive. Okay, so we did that. Okay, so again, if anybody's got questions I'm missing, but
Far away.
if not, uh, we're going to kind of get into what some of the questions were before you hopped on, which is like, where are people, in your opinion, going maybe wrong when they're trying to get faster? Like that, hey, I want to get faster. You kind
Yeah.
of touched on it in saying like they do too many things and they don't really like stay the course. Maybe that's one, or maybe it's like, hey, they think trying harder to swing faster is the only thing they need to do when it's improving the golf swing, or maybe it's pressure work. I don't know. So where would you say like people get going and they're kind of going down the wrong road?
Okay. So we've got a couple of hours for this answer.
Yeah.
Basically, there's a couple of different ways. You can't sort of throw everyone into the same group. Um, I find there's a very large psychological component to this. Okay, in a good way, like really, really in a good way, and probably the lasting people, the lasting, they make a big gain, it drops back maybe a touch, and then they tend to hold it for like a whole season or two. They overcome a psychological hurdle, and that's what allows them to own that speed. They get like everybody else, they get really worried. They swing hard, they spray the ball right, they spray the ball left. Their brain says, okay, when I was a beginner, I had to work out kind of why the ball's moving around like that. They're drawn back to that thinking. They're not mind on the job, swing hard anymore. And
Right.
so they kind of fall back. Then they kind of go through that. So they go, all right, if I'm going to go faster, if I'm going to hit the ball further, I need to spray the ball for a while. It's just going to happen. And then this dispersion pattern that they have starts to narrow, and then they're convinced, and then they believe, and then they've got this new speed, and it's them now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's the psychological component, if that makes sense to everybody.
Yeah. And now, would you say that's a similar problem to people who maybe see a lot of speed on the driving range, but then they can't carry it to the golf course? Like
100%.
similar, yeah, similar
Oh,
mindset.
oh, exactly that. So I play golf very seldom, maybe once a fortnight, something like that, which is a lot of golf for some people, so don't get me wrong. And what I had to do basically was, with my golf was when I stand on the tee, pick a target and then just go in a box
Yeah.
and switch off and thump the thing and ask my playing partner, where's that?
Right.
You see it? And then go hit
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah.
Or, or they'd go, man, that went forever. It's middle fairway. And I'd go, right, I just need to get through this, going as hard as I can, red in the face. My feet are all over the place. This is insane. What do I look like? Is this
Right.
correct? And you need to get through that. And you need to kind of conquer those fears, those anxieties, and that worry about hitting a ball hard. A lot of us maybe subconsciously have been taught slow down to get straighter, and only a few of us know that that's a load of BS.
Right.
That's not true. But you have to prove it to yourself. I can tell everybody, you can tell everybody, we can broadcast every single day, but until you go through the process and you actually own it for yourself, you're always on the faster equals more spraying it kind of fence side, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Right. Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
We actually got a good question that I thought might be interesting. Do you think competitive golf? Do you think there's a speed limit where, like, for PG, let's say PGA Tour, just because it's easy for everyone to connect with,
Yeah.
that there's going to be a point where you're fast enough, and anything faster is problematic.
So I really, I say yes, and I say it's moving,
Kind
right?
of like
So it's moving because it's a field of competitors. It's not a science yet. It's not, there's no number. There's a field of competitors, and the field is getting faster. So if you don't move forward, then you're probably not at that number. Maybe someone is. Maybe if someone's swinging 135 without much effort, that's very different to someone 135 coming out of their
right,
shoes.
right.
Okay, it's actually two different people. So we don't know what that number is. We don't know what the ball speed number is yet. I mean, a US Open was won with some 200-mile-an-hour ball speeds or high 190s, right? So that just validates that number for now until someone wins a big tournament at 205,
Right.
and then someone wins another big tournament at 210. But we all kind of know the math. Well, I shouldn't say that. Most of us know the math. If you miss a certain amount of degrees offline and the ball travels further, the end ain't pretty, right?
Right.
It's going further offline. But players tend to become very good at managing that.
Yeah.
And like, how good can these guys get?
I was gonna
So
say,
it's not set in stone, right? I don't think what we say now in 10 years, I don't think it's valid. I don't think it's relevant anymore. I think we're
yeah,
getting better. We're just getting better every year. The athletes are more athletic. It's so exciting to watch golf at the moment, I think, anyway. There's just so much better athleticism, and I think the play is increasing each year. I don't think we're regressing. I don't think we play golf worse than the 1960s. I don't think that's the case.
yeah, right. No, I think that's a good point too. It's like a moving summed total, like the
Yeah.
average of the tour. You
Yeah,
don't look
totally.
at guys on either end and say, the fastest person on tour isn't the most successful, therefore speed is bad.
Yeah.
It's just that one person isn't hitting the ball as well as maybe, someone a little bit further down the road. But
So a
that's
concept, a kind of concept in strength and conditioning might help explain. It's called
yep,
RPE, which is the rate of perceived
yep,
exertion. And like, everyone that's listening. So if Drew and I are swinging the exact same speed, we're both at 130. I'm moving, and Drew's cruising. So he's going to hit more fairways than I hit. I'm going to be more offline. I'm probably closing my eyes at impact. Let's go.
right,
So it's a lower percentage of your max that makes you more accurate with any
right,
golf club,
right.
which is why, if you do hit a 50-meter pitch shot with good technique, you're not 50 right,
Yeah,
generally
you're not
speaking.
hitting OB, right,
It- it- most of the time, yeah.
right, right.
Yeah,
Ideally.
yeah.
Um,
might help explain that a little bit.
Yep. No, I like that. We
Yeah.
did get a couple questions. So we got my effective speed with my stack is 10 miles per hour higher than my own driver and has been for a year now. I can't figure out what I'm doing differently. But this sounds like the what we kind of hit on between like the perception of a driver head impact, reacting to a golf ball, like all of those mental, I don't want to say mental
No,
issues,
no.
but I'll let you answer.
Right. Yeah.
It seems like it's psychologically based most of the
Yeah.
time.
There's a kind of cool fact about the stack system, and the guys behind the stack are
Good.
brilliant. I really love those guys, and I've learned a lot from them. So thank you guys. And the stack isn't full length,
Right.
um, right? So it's about a hybrid length,
Right.
and there's reasoning behind that, right? They want skill transfer up to the driver, down to the irons. Okay. And also, there's a thing that happens when you swing really fast if your club's really long and you don't have a ball. You're no longer kind of getting the club head exactly where the ball is.
Yeah.
Some people get really far
Yep.
away. And because you're just gritting your teeth and going super hard, you're really miles away from impact.
Yep.
And so it's this fine balance of don't hit like the top of a tee with the stack when you're training. Don't care. But then we have to hit a ball. And so if my speed training is way off, and I actually almost have a different technique, different swing to hitting a golf ball swing, then you see a huge power loss, a massive power loss. One of the things speed sticks enable us to do is to not stall out, to not slow rotation,
Right.
to kind of get through that, to understand what that feels like. You know, the first time someone swings a speed stick, I'm worried that they're going to let go, like,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm
Right.
like, hang on,
Right.
you know. It's that difference in being able to not position yourself against the back of that ball with that face angle, right? You know, there isn't that feedback. And so, you know, you could say, well, how am I moving the how am I moving the stack so well if it's a bit shorter? Now that's calculated, you know, that's worked out for you.
Right.
And I think it's really quite accurate. All the players that I've trained that have used the stack, and I've used stack with them as well, the numbers aren't real far off once they're actually, you know, moving well. So the length of the stack is shorter. You pull out your driver, it's longer. We've got a little change there. We put a ball in position. The first swing might be an air swing sometimes if you come straight from stack to driver. So
Yep.
when you decide, I got to test my driver speed for real, don't do it on the same day.
Right.
Okay. Don't go, I just put the stack down and run over to the tee, go.
Yeah. Think.
Set it out, set out a particular time, you know, warm up, get yourself loose, work up to speed, and then start trying to crank it from there and try and set a PB/PR at that particular time. Compare that to the stack training that you've been doing, not just, you know, same day, same time. It's too much of a jump for the brain. It's a really tough thing to do. Try and get your speed swing to immediately be your golf club
Yep.
swing, you know?
Yeah. And just to clarify, like when you say the swing isn't exactly the same, you're not near impact. You tend to see people's clubs further and further off the ground, like almost like
Yeah.
more baseball esque.
And outside the ball,
Yeah.
if that makes sense too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Club head on the outside. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then we got another one saying, "I've any recommendations for practicing while avoiding bad habits or avoiding creating bad habits, mental or physical." So anything you got for that? Like for me, like creating bad habits mentally or physically, to me is always like my mindfulness. Like I don't ever want to go out and just hit golf balls, hit them bad and get mad and just keep hitting them. Like I tend
Yeah.
to just the worse I'm hitting the ball, the slower I move, the more I film, the more I pay attention to what I'm doing, so that like I don't want to say get out of my own way, but I don't like snowball a problem into more problems because I'm mad and just going faster and faster. That's
Yeah.
kind of my solution.
Yeah, 100%. And I think understanding your own process is really important. That takes
Yeah,
time, obviously. So speed train once, you don't know anything, to be perfectly honest.
yeah, you're just
Um, yeah, just what is
right,
this? But what I like to kind of help people with is say, when you go to the session, garage, gym, range, wherever it is, have a task. Don't have 10 tasks,
yeah,
and also don't have zero tasks.
yeah,
So go there to achieve something, one thing, and then it can be really simple, right? But have a way to measure whatever that task is.
right,
Don't guess, don't rely on your own feelings, because some people are incredibly negative. They're like, oh, I got nowhere near it. And I'm like, that's
yeah,
amazing.
right.
And then we have the other end of the scale. We're like, how good is that? And I'm like,
Nope. Yeah.
we're getting there.
So now,
So have a way. Mm,
are you? Because like I would tell people to diverge themselves from like what the outcome is versus what the objective is. So like a lot of times the objective may be a different hip tilt, a different shoulder tilt,
mhm.
whatever it is. Like that's the goal. If you hit the ball and you hit it poorly, like okay, that's fine. Did you achieve the change? Like, and can you separate success from hitting a good shot versus creating a good change?
Totally. I like to think I can start there, but I want to give them something to pair with that. Otherwise, I think that always is really vague, really
Yeah, yep,
obvious. And so if yeah, hip tilt, you know, okay, good. Do they understand it? Okay, I feel like they understand it. What will it do? So I like to try and have them potentially hit the mistake while I'm
Yeah.
there and go, see, can you feel, do you understand? That hip tilt caused that. Oh, I can. I can't. Let's do some more. I can. So if it's correct, this hip tilt, that's the outcome.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of that outcome. Let's do this until we can keep the hip tilt, change the outcome later.
Right.
So it's important to make sure they know what they're looking for. And a lot of people kind of go, mm-hmm.
And so,
And then I'll kind of say something else and they'll go, oh, you got me. And I
yeah.
go, right, let's make sure we really know what we're trying to do. What's the job we've got? Is it a part of a swing? Is it the whole swing? Is it a drill? Is it a part of a drill? Is it something that we can actually really measure if we say on the driving range, get an alignment stick, put it somewhere to force you is the fastest way to make change. You know, it really is. Use your golf bag, use a tee in your glove, but don't go to the range and just literally hit. I feel like I'm a really disciplined person. My first swing versus my last swing, that looks familiar, you know. Geez,
Yeah.
I'm striping it though. Wow, that'll just happen over and over
Yeah.
again, right? And so we feel like we've figured something out, but it's really just ball flight, and
Yeah.
which we can manipulate. And the better we are, the more we can manipulate it. So you need something physical. Whether take a radar if it's speed, obviously, you know something, you know, portable PRGRs, brilliant, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Slap it in the bag, make sure you've got it. Use scales if it's your body weight. Um, you know, track calories if it's your body weight. So with golf, make sure that you're tracking in the same way. Make sure it's a radar. Make sure you've got alignment sticks. Make sure that the drill has something you're gonna know. Yes. Don't kind of think that you're a little bit smarter than the rest.
Right.
Um, the smartest people are the people that are actually measuring and using constraints method. And you see them at the range, it's like that person's training.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, they're really training. They gonna actually get better. Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you a fan? Like you touched on it really quickly of bouncing into the mistake, let's say, and then into the good. Will you do that consciously in session with people?
Oh,
Like,
totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or now, will you push them to mistake, or will you just say, like, when you see them make whatever mistake it is they're commonly making, will you just catch them and say, "Did you feel that? Like, what'd you feel?" Or will you say, "Hey, like, whatever it is, you lift your arm. Like, when will you lift your arm and then don't do it, then do it, then don't do it? Can you feel the diff? Like, will you intentionally make them do it, or just catch them?
You've got to, just my opinion, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's kind of the art form of coaching. You've got to reveal it to them.
Okay.
So they've got to catch them.
Okay.
I'm not here to lecture
Okay.
them,
I like
right?
that. Okay.
Everybody loves those,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So I've got to kind of be cleverer and I've got to try and find a way that they go, oh, okay, I've got to stop doing that.
Right.
I can see
Yeah.
what that's doing either to the, you know, the TrackMan parameters, like, oh, I can see that number, like, wow, I just can't budget. I'm trying so hard. I thought I was budging it, but I can't budget. Or this start line on this shot, it's not that far left, right? Okay, we've got a launch direction of like -25 going on here. We have to do something about that. But this person, they're only watching the ball land at the flag and they're happy. But this pull cut they're hitting is, woo, they're losing 30 meters. So I've got to get them to see the launch direction, to use a TrackMan term. I've got to get them to feel, see, be aware, and go, oh no, this is no good. For them to want to point their face a little bit straighter, as an example.
Right.
And then I say, hey, you know how far right we're going to be when we do that?
Right.
And if they go, no, I go, right, we've got a bit more to learn. And if
Yeah.
they go, yeah, it's happened to me before, I go, part two is, you know, and then we get to work on part two.
Right.
And then they're going to be able to move forward again. So I think it's really important that they could almost tell me in the middle of the session and definitely at the end of the session what they've changed and why they changed it and why they want to change it. So it removes me and it's no longer my fault, my idea.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teaching them to manage themselves.
100%. That's the
Right.
job. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Any point? Yes, that's funny. We did that. Okay. So we covered the topics I wanted to. We did get a question: is gun to your head, is the speed aspect of golf overtaking short game?
Oh, wow. Overtaking
Like
in
the importance, or like,
popularity?
nah, I'm guessing he's saying like the importance in terms of like playing good golf are people too focused on speed and not enough on short game. I'm guessing.
Okay, okay, I like that. Well, let's go both ways. In terms of popularity, I think they're actually now very similar,
Yeah.
and it's almost like iron play. No one talks about
Yeah.
anymore. It's like, you know, low spinning wedge shots and high soft wedge shots, and then how far can you hit it?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
the feeling out there, anyway.
Yep.
And then the other aspect, it's down to Mark Brody, right? It's nothing to do with me.
Some math.
It's just been proven that it's more
Yep.
important.
Yep.
It's not opinion based anymore, as it can potentially be. So if you're of the opinion, I understand that. I hear you. Like lots of people say, help me with my sand wedge, and I do. My lob wedge, my short game, my bunkers, and I go, of course, let's make it as good as we possibly can. And then if I get a chance to kind of like chat to them about strokes gained and how that works and how you want to actually lower golf scores, I might be able to get them to do some bunker work and maybe pick up a driver a little bit more often as well.
Yep.
And for me, like my job is to lower their handicap if it's a handicapped
Yep.
golfer. My job is to reduce their scoring average if they're a professional. I don't have to do any of that with a long driver, obviously, but the club golfer and the professional golfer is a lot of what I do. So long drive is not everything.
Right.
If there's obviously a point where you go, okay, we can now pick up strokes with a wedge.
Yep.
Okay. And I think it's sort of like what we said earlier. I don't think people go far enough with their long game before they switch back to that. They drive the ball a little bit better. They hit their irons a lot longer. And just yesterday, I had a client come running up to me and he goes, "I was over the back of every green today. What are you doing to me?" You know. And I said,
Yeah.
"Congratulations, great job." And he goes, "Yeah, I get it, honestly. But it was tough having chipped from over the back all day." And I said, "That's great. Make sure you're writing down some new carry distances, and the next session, let's kind of quantify what we're doing."
Right.
But you got to get there first, and you got to dig in your heels, and you've got to get to being a better ball striker first before the short game can start to pay you dividends. So if you've got scores, you've got your worst and your best, and you work on short game, you might be able to bring your worst down consistently. So those blowout scores, you're saving, but you're not necessarily dropping the best
Right.
round. So you're not getting closer to breaking par or breaking 80 or breaking 90 or breaking 100. You're mopping up after yourself. You're lessening the damage, which is what a short game. It's why it's called
Right.
scrambling and
Right.
saving.
Right.
And so it's not to say that it's not important. It's just number two. It's number two or three. It's not number one. Yeah,
Yeah.
distance is just it's
Yeah.
transformed. Honestly, it just changes the game. Yeah, it
I
really
just
does.
I like that analogy that you're saving yourself bad scores, but you're not creating opportunities for like low scores, lower
Yeah.
scores. You're just
Oh, when I have 10 chip ins in one round, I'll tell you about it. Like
right.
come on, but it's maybe
Yeah.
one, and most of the time it's none, right? So I want to be on the green. I want to hit a short club in. I want to putt a
Right.
birdie.
Right. Now the next question is actually one that I forgot I wanted to cover. The question is, what are some general swing cues that naturally increase speed? And I forgot that I wanted to ask you some of like your foundational, actual golf swing mechanics that are like just the most beneficial for speed. When people think about, I'm going to change my golf swing. So uh, let's go with that.
Yeah, okay. Um, Now I guess there's kind of like maybe positional things in some people's minds, and my take on that is that they're for reference and for conversation. So I need to show Drew what he's doing in a backswing. So I'll stop it somewhere and I'll say, hey, this is where
Yep.
it is. This is where it could
Yep.
be. How many people have been successful from where you are currently? Is it a high percentage or a low percentage?
Right.
Do we need to change it? What does it cause? And then when we want to benefit straight away, we need better coordination. And that doesn't come from any positional work necessarily directly. Okay, so it can, I'm not saying it can't, but usually we need to be more coordinated so that we can achieve a higher speed at that lower RPE. So I'm not exerting myself as much and I'm moving well. And that doesn't necessarily mean a perfectly online takeaway. It doesn't necessarily mean that. So at each phase, you're assessing how far off is this person, what's causing that, and where is the biggest struggle in their swing. Like, where can we just go, boom, okay, we're better,
Yeah.
before we go, let's fix P1,
Right.
P2, P. That's a long
Yeah.
road, and you may not end up still being yourself. You may not still being what you mostly do,
Yeah.
which is intrinsic to yourself, you know.
Yeah, no, I like that because I usually say the two biggest things that I point to are pressure and turning. Like if you can manage your pressure and turn and like unwind your body, like forget if you go inside and over or outside and under, but you sequence the pressure and the rotation well, that's going to be more beneficial than like you said fixing the club face at P2.
You're doing good. You really are. If you have a good pressure shift, okay, you're not that bad at golf, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you may not be beautiful, but it's going to be better than what it could be.
Oh yeah, 100%. You can generate power if the pressure's moving in the right direction, definitely.
Yeah. Are you usually able to diagnose people who swing irons relatively slower than their driver? And if so, is there a consistent reason? That's a popular question. I swing
Yeah.
my 7 iron X and my driver Y, and
Yeah.
they're like massively apart.
Oh, 100%. That's it's actually quite easy to explain. So have a think about what you're doing at the bottom of that arc when you're coming into impact. Can you touch the ground or can't you? Irons, yep. So get the club and go down as hard as you can, as hard as you like without much fear, right? We get a divot at the bottom, the grass explodes, the ball flies, we're good. So we're pretty fearless. Get that driver up to the top, rip it down and break the head off the shaft.
Not good.
No, so we've got to get back up with the driver.
Yeah.
And to be fast with your irons, you got to get back up for sure. You should definitely use your vertical force. You should definitely be up through the ball, etc., etc. But it's less important. It's less required than a driver. It's a must with a driver. So some people have this great up, down iron pattern, and that's what they hit the driver with. And so the driver's not that far away. And then some people have this beautiful upward, extension through the ball, and it's like that guy drives it so good, and irons.
High weak. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not quite as
Yeah.
nice. And obviously, you do actually, once you get further and further into golf, you got to have both patterns. You've got to understand them, and you've got to be able to go this one at this moment, this one in this moment, because they're trained, so they're known to you. And the wedge pattern's different, right?
Yeah. The way I've always described that is very similar to you, but I use a light switch, and the driver's like a clicking light switch. When you land on that lead foot, you just flick the light switch on, and the further down towards
Yeah,
the wedge you go, the more it's like a dimmer, where you're just kind of slowly
I love that.
like
Yeah,
or an elevator and an escalator. Those are my two
yeah,
analogies for
love that.
drivers and
Yeah,
irons. Yeah,
yeah, totally. And if you practice and train irons, like most golfers, it's 80%, 90% of your swings.
yeah,
And then you go, right, let's do driver. And that poor thing has been neglected. It's got cobwebs
yeah,
all over it. You're like, I hit three on the range and I'm like, okay, I hit the trees on this side. I put this thing's wild, put it away back to the irons and work on it. It doesn't get any better.
yeah.
You got to have it in your hand to actually make it better, you
Yeah.
know?
So on that note, like if you've got a club player or somebody who wants to lower a handicap, and you said here, go to the driving range, are you similar to saying like wedges and drivers, like or say 8 irons and down and drivers, like when you're on the range, like practice time? Because I see a lot of people spending their time with like the old thing my dad always did was like here's a 6 iron, it's in the middle, so it's sort of like the driver and the wedge.
Yeah.
And now I hit like no, I'm the amount of clubs I hit from 6 to 4 iron is like nothing. I just never touch 7, 6, 5, 4. I just hit drivers and kind of low clubs.
My faces on my irons at that range are just beautiful,
Pristine. Yeah. Yeah.
so it was kind of time efficient if you think about it. And it was common sense.
Yep.
It's like limited time to get to the range, go in the middle, get it done, get
Yep.
out, um, hope it transfers as far as possible. But it's kind of like how far does it transfer? And so in the gym, the equivalent is isometric. So I'm going to hold this position. I'm going to get really strong in this position. And it goes a little bit either way. Some people say 15 degrees in the joint either
Yep.
way. But outside of that, nope.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't really connect to the brain at all. So there is a time for isometrics, there is time for partial range, there's a time where we need full range of motion as well. And when you go to the range, I try to teach people if they were an 80-20 XY, then they need to be a 20-80 XY. They need to bias their practice towards their improvement, not their enjoyment, what they want to do, and then find the enjoyment in the change in that
Yeah.
bias. And it's tough to say the common golfer. I really refrain from saying that with my experience of teaching every human. Like, what is a golf club? Teach me which end to hold, and then kind of like the fastest dude in the world or whatever. So I can't do that anymore. So I try to ask them, okay, what do you value? What do you love? What do you enjoy? Okay, how can we get you back there as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
But really find the enjoyment on the golf course is topping up the fuel for the training. In the end, the success is wanting to train and loving training, which produces the results. It's not the golf course is everything to me. I hate the range. You really got to change that attitude to see
Yeah.
lower scores. So if you're a 10% driver guy, I want you a 90% driver guy, and you'll get better. The 10%'s enough. You've done 6 irons for 10 years.
Yeah.
The 10%, it blows the cobwebs off, and they're still in there, and you're good. So you got to do more of what you don't do to up that skill.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Okay, so before we go, I'm either going to let people ask some questions. There is that one about hitting down on the driver. What's the first
Yep.
step to not hit down? I'm going to look over these guys.
What's the first step to not hitting down on the driver?
Yeah.
First place I look is the initial pressure shift to the trail foot. Um, is there one? How much is there? And then what does that athlete do from there? Some players get off the ball, get way back onto the front foot and hit down. Some players turn into the front foot.
On the back.
The yeah, and some players, they're probably taught a belief like stay still,
Yeah.
center the pivot. You're a kebab on a skewer, like don't go anywhere. And so driver maybe doesn't work as well necessarily like that. It can. Some players just have honed in that skill. They don't move around very much. But the first place I look is, are you going to move the low point away from the golf ball? Are you going to get it behind the golf ball somehow? Is it going to be your upper center? Is it going to be the pressure shift early and then you can look nice and straight? How are you doing that? Is the takeaway wide? Is it straight up and down? How are you moving the low point behind the golf ball when you're driving? Why is it moving to the golf ball or beyond the golf ball consistently? I know the answer. It's that guy practices with irons all the time. Yeah, but we've got to then, as I said before, we've got to reveal that to him. He's got to see that. It's like, Bruce Willis. I see dead people. I can see low points.
Right.
You got to know where they are, right? You got to be able to visualize these things.
Right.
And if I'm playing a round of golf and you're playing a round of golf, we probably have 6 to 7 different kind of low points depending on what we're doing.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah.
they can they get to the point where they're intuitive, and you don't have to go, all right, 5 centimeters A. You don't have to do that, but that came from the training and that came from the practice to be able to do that.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's good. Good. Okay, so we'll rapid fire the ones that came in
Yeah.
as quick
Uh-huh.
as I can.
Yeah.
First one is the effect of the weight loss has had on my swing speed. And I'll let you talk if you've had any weight. So I've dropped 20, 25-ish pounds. I swung a play driver the other day at 146. I think hit 215, 214 ball. So far, nothing, but it will. Like if I keep going, it will. But so far, nothing. Have you ever gone through this with someone losing a bunch of weight?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a longer span of time to see
Yeah.
that change. It's not something that happens quite rapidly.
Right.
And it gets down to firstly, is the calorie deficit that you're in starting to affect your strength level?
Exactly.
I'm maintaining my weights. We're fine, and we can still be fast and twitchy and have good reflexes and keep the speed up. And the speed can actually surge up a little bit initially, and then okay, like I've lost a lot of weight here, and my lifts in the gym are starting to decline. I can't get to that 1 rep max anymore. Swing speed's going to start to follow
Yeah.
that. It's going to start to kind of like lag behind it, but then it's going to follow that decline in the gym. And then, you assess at that point, you go, have I done enough? Do I need to get leaner? General health versus sport specific performance. And then on the other side of the scale, some people getting leaner move better.
Yeah.
They're not dealing with their own momentum. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they're not
They're,
to
they're
overcome the mass of themselves.
correct,
Or
100%.
if you're big enough, you can't move around yourself very well. So
Uh,
it depends on your starting weight and where you're ending up.
oh,
Yeah,
100%, absolutely. So they lean up and then they gain
yeah,
speed. They you might say stretch better, and also their horizontal movement can improve a lot. Whereas before, if you've got a lot of body mass, the vertical movement tends to be quite easy. You know, if you can get it up, you know,
yeah,
we're coming back down and pretty easy. So you want to, kind of think, can I increase mobility and range of motion due to what I'm doing? And then I'm going to run out of that. And it's time to probably put that muscle back on or build that strength back up
right.
again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Um, I like this question because I think I disagree with some people. Should you only practice speed once your technique is good, or can speed work improve your technique?
Speed work 100% improves your technique.
Yeah, I
100%.
think the only people I've seen where it doesn't is when it's like usually like a very like dominant upper body person, and you just have to have some simple coaching cues to kind of fix that, and then it kind of is a good thing. But
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the only person who I've said if you just like let him go off in the dark and said do speed work, and they just think the engine is the shoulders, they can be in
Oh,
trouble. So
definitely.
yeah,
Yep. And I love that person.
yeah,
Um, I find it really easy to work with that person because I can go, hey, this is it. We're stuck. Add a little bit of lower body.
bam, yeah,
Wow, man. And they're sold and they're convinced straight away. And they get stuck into step drills, change of direction drills, stuff that forces their sequence to actually be lower body driven, or dominant. And they love it. And they just got to get through that bad hitting period. And then they make enormous gains because, like, I want to be strong in my shoulders.
right, right, yeah. You don't want them to be slow. You just don't want them to go immediately.
Correct. Or the only thing that moves.
Right, yeah, right, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, when does pressure get back to your front foot, and when do you start pushing with the front foot? Kind of said
So,
it depends on the club. We'll assume this is a
yeah,
driver question. So,
absolutely. So, um, unless, we get into variables, let's just go with that pushing out of the front foot is the max vertical force produced by that front
yep,
foot. And then let's say lead arm is level with the ground in the downswing. You want it done. You want it as much as you can produce kind of that position or slightly under or slightly over. You don't need to get a line out and be like, I haven't done it
yeah,
by here, I'm dead. But let's say it's in that kind of like left arm, right arm parallel, depending if you're right-handed,
right,
left-handed, that you're pushed out of the ground. You've done it. And then it says pressure to the front foot. Well, that's the same
yep.
thing. But maybe what they mean is re-centering their pressure.
I think
So I
so.
mean, it means we kind of like, let's say we start 50-50, we move off to the trail side and we move back to 50-50. And I really have two answers for this, like I'm in the lab and I need to know the answer for the other scientists. And then I say, earlier than you currently do it
Yeah,
when I'm talking to an
yeah,
athlete. And so they'll go like, but how early? And I go like, honestly, yesterday, like
yeah,
you cannot do it fast enough. You cannot do it well
yep,
enough. It's so important. It's crucial. It's a massive part of it. And some of the work that I do, I stop them at the backswing, and it sounds boring. So I love the people that are into it, but we'll do a lesson on backswing, just going through pressure to the trail, recentering and loading the backswing. Stop, and that's enough. Don't swing down. Hold it. Reset. Do it again. Film it. Show them. Man, what a backswing! That looks amazing. I'm like, right. And I go, how's it feel? And they go, man, this is from outer
yeah,
space.
right.
What is this? What is this? This can't be right. Okay, if it can't be right, let's do a few more. And then maybe you can show them an example and then they see it. Whoa, this is
Yep.
insane. With a driver, you're getting back that quick. Mm-hmm.
Trying to. Yeah, I
Yeah.
still go. I'm still working on the same thing because
Yeah.
I still struggle with it, and I've been
Oh,
trying to get back to my lead side by P4 and like since the first day I met Dana, like the very first day. And I still like I have moments of good, but like for the life of me, it's the thing I work on
oh man,
all the time.
it's like you're holding, a rubber band and you get better. Then the
Yeah,
bottom
right.
moves and then you go, and then the top moves. And then, what we all want is that. But you got to work here for a bit, improve it. Then you got to go back here, work here for a bit. And so you're always trying to pull that apart and make that better.
Yeah,
It's a living, breathing thing, kind of. It's not just going to
yeah,
sit still for you, So you've got to keep keep pulling it apart. And that's where you've got to be a little bit crazy and do some stuff which is not normal and, quite fast and athletic and, full on. And then we're going to learn, we're going to kind of push our boundaries as to what we think is
Yep.
acceptable. And yours is pretty reasonable, like, but you want it better, right?
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Like if I wanted to go be a recreational, just not care about anything, I could play golf just fine.
we're okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good point. Now, personally, does that change? Does any of what you said just change for a tournament golfer compared to a long driver? The pressure sequence and like the amount or the timing of the vertical leg or lead leg vertical.
So they're on a par in terms of what it
Yep.
is that you're trying to do. But then you've got this thing, acceleration and velocity, and
Yeah.
that's a lot higher. And we're kind of on the edge a lot. So when you shift to the trail side, for example, some of the guys doing what we do, they're going to fall over. Okay.
Right.
And I need them to. And then I need them to not fall over, and they got better.
Right.
And so we need to go there with a long driver. We have to go there with a long driver. This person needs to get outside of their boundaries by as much as they possibly can. And then with a tournament golfer, I don't think it's beneficial to slam into the trail side, fall over.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got to do more than they did and know we're doing it and raise the level, but still be able to complete the sequence.
Right.
Whereas with long drivers, with working with them, we're often working just a chunk. We're maxing out a chunk. It's like, get the club over your back and let's see if the shaft breaks down your back. Like, that's what I'm visualizing.
Yeah.
And then don't try and hit the ball. Please don't try and bring it back around. Just add velocity, just add acceleration in that segment is what we're doing. So tournament golfer, probably not doing that, especially if they've got upcoming events.
Yep.
Working with what they have and trying to make it faster. Long driver, okay, this is where you're really weak. Let's stay here. Let's really beef this up. Let's add, velocity, acceleration, force, torque to that part of what you're trying to do. Let's trust the other bits for a little while. When we plug it back in, they'll be there. We're okay. We've done that enough.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good. Then, okay, let's go last one.
Okay.
Balancing speed and training with recovery. So like, how can we make this kind of goes back to the, doing too many things, trying to do the speed sticks, the driver, the this, the that, the gym. So do you have any like framework to make sure people are recovering, or maybe even like radar data that you're like, hey, if we see negative trends for X amount of days,
Yeah.
anything you utilize?
Yeah, 100%. And that shifted over the time that I've been doing it because I've been able to see more of what people are capable of.
Right.
For instance, Matt Stubbs and Seb Tudell, the training that they did prior to when they had their first season and they were going so crazy fast, there's not many people that could handle that amount of training. Like most days I'm waking up and I'm seeing those guys' faces and we're flogging golf balls and then we're saying, hey, bye. And then we'll see you the next day. The volume was insane.
Okay, so you're talking about hitting golf balls or hitting golf balls and the gym.
They were doing gym once they left me.
Okay, so we're talking the full deal, tons of golf balls hit.
Oh, man.
And gym work.
Oh, those guys work so hard. You would not believe it. Like, not many people are going through that. Like, they're not getting out of bed the next day.
Yeah, right.
And so what that looks like for everyone is different. And it's the training stimulus. And so you have to get to a point where you need recovery. Your golf swing training, speed training, it's got to get you to the point where you are beat up. It has to do that. And then I've got to make sure that, potentially I allocate a speed day, max day. And all I'm trying to do that day is go as fast as I possibly can. And I'm a huge fan of monitoring club speed, but not ball speed on that day. I want to move the implement
Yep.
better than I've ever moved it before. Some people say move it faster, but I say better. If you can make that implement travel faster, further, better, everything else is going to follow along. Just think of a discus thrower, think of a javelin thrower, think of a shot putter. Man, how fast can they get that shot? How fast can they get that javelin traveling?
Yep.
Sometimes they don't throw it on the perfect trajectory. They really don't. But they're really trying to throw that thing harder. So club speed first, Once we've got maybe a PB, then we look at ball speed, and we're trying to potentially take that club speed and wring out as much ball as we can, get a little closer to the center of the face. And then the tertiary component is that let's see where that thing went once we did that.
Right.
And consistently, you will see a club speed here, which could potentially produce a ball speed here, but doesn't, which could potentially produce some yards or meters here, which doesn't.
Right.
And so if you're not raising this one, I don't understand how people think this one's going up.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm 145, I'm 145. Next year I'm 145. The year after that I'm 145, but I'm just trying to get more ball
Yeah.
speed. Maybe not
Yeah.
the right way of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like in a past life in the strength conditioning world, it's like isometric mid thigh pulls. You raise the ceiling to lift the floor, and so you
Yeah.
can't run the floor into the ceiling. You gotta keep lifting the ceiling, the thing that's
Yeah.
the most foundational to the rest of the story. So
Yeah. 100%.
yeah. Well, I
100%.
love it. This is one of my favorite talks I've done. So I appreciate you taking the time.
You're very, very welcome. Thanks for inviting me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you like anyone can find you Skillist?
Yep. Definitely. So I work with a lot of players around the world on Skillist. We've got a subscription that you can sign up for. Single lessons if you want to just check it out, test it out. We can do a Zoom lesson if you like, so we can kind of like we're doing right now, or just send me through some of the work that you're currently doing. My Instagram's at Craig Parker Golf, and you can message me on there. So if you have more questions after this, I'm sure both of us are happy to field those things. So punch them on through, and then I teach obviously at Indrapilli Golf Club here in beautiful Brisbane. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll post this later and I'll link your stuff and we'll maybe do it again. That was fun.
Sounds good
All
to
right.
me, Drew.
Thanks, Craig.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thanks, mate. Great to see you.